This video is going to show you how to make a slab of clay. A slab is basically a nice, even thickness sheet of clay. And if you do it properly, you're going to get a really nice piece of clay to work with that is very useful for lots of different techniques. Set that aside. I'm going to take a piece of clay, and how much clay you use for this all depends on how big you want that slab to be. And I'm sorry about the camera shaking during this. My stand for my camera is on the table, and it unfortunately does shake with the table. So here we go. I am going to take this and start out by pressing the clay down. By pressing the clay down and flipping it and doing that again, that process several times. Flip it sideways. That helps unstick it from the canvas. You can see as I press this down, the canvas starts to pucker, starts to get little edges where you can see it's been stretched out and it's bunching up. The canvas will only stretch so far. So if you don't unstick it from the canvas, pull it up every once in a while, then the clay will stop stretching because it's pressed so hard into the canvas, which will no longer stretch. So if I do this, you can see the canvas isn't stretched out anymore, and I can keep going. Now, I don't want to do this too thin because I want to make sure that my rolling pin works. For this, you need two matching pieces of wood. These are called wood slats, S-L-A-T-S, and you need them to be matching. We have these two, which are just two skinny pieces of wood, but we also have a couple of rulers that are the same thickness as each other. Those can be used as well. Basically, you just put them on either side. Make sure you don't have any other clay in this area or tools or your phone, because you're also going to use a rolling pin, and that rolling pin can cause problems by rolling out your clay too thin if it's left right next to it, or if your phone is there, it can actually crack your screen. I've seen it happen before, so this is a great time to have your phones put away, as it should be for all of class. I'm going to take my rolling pin, and I am going to kind of gently at first till I see how much pressure I need to move it. I want to make sure that as I watch this, I can see the clay moving. I can see the canvas puckering up because the clay is pushing in and stretching it out just like it was before. Sorry, my light's turned off. And after I roll it a couple times, I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it sideways. The reason for this is that clay has a memory. It doesn't have a brain, but it remembers where it's been and it wants to go back there as it dries. So if my hands are your layers of clay and I'm rolling on top with my rolling pin, what's happening is the top layer does this with each roll of the rolling pin. And when I flip it over, I can actually physically see that this part has gone past what was on the bottom. So once I flip it sideways, left to right or right to left, like this, then I can start rolling again, and this will catch that up. If I don't do that, as it dries, it's going to do this, and it's going to warp instead of giving you a nice flat piece of clay. So roll it out a couple times, flip it sideways. Partly because we don't want it to warp, partly because we want to unstick it from this canvas that won't stretch anymore. Once in a while, you can actually rotate it. If you're wanting your piece to go longer like this, just keep getting longer and longer, then you just keep flipping it sideways this way. If you want it to go more round or more square, then you want to turn it sideways once or twice also. And then that would be a rotate sideways, and then flip it like this. Now, the question everyone always has is, how do we know that it's thin enough? Well, we know it's gotten nice and thin if the clay doesn't appear to be stretching anymore, and if it's as thick as these wood pieces. How do we know if it's this thick? We can actually feel it if I do this and it wobbles. That means that it's not sitting level. It needs to be sitting level on these pieces of wood as it rolls all the way across. We can also look down beside it, and if we see daylight through here, when we're pressing on one side, then we know, there's quite a difference here, then we know that it's not smooth yet. And you can also feel the wood rolling pin roll across the wood slats. And I did something here so that you can see what happens when you have clay sitting next to where you're rolling out. If you see this, even though it was thin enough, I've now rolled even deeper into this nice slab, and I don't like that. I don't know how I'm going to fix that, but I will have to fix it if I want this whole thing to be smooth. Maybe it won't matter because maybe I'm going to put texture on it, and I'll teach you some more about texture at some point in another video. But this is how you roll out a nice, even slab of clay.